Yeah.
So, Julia, let's start off with the 3 C's. I'm going in with cancer, camping and caravanning.
I love it. Okay, where should we begin?
Let's deal with the cancer first. How are you? How is your health?
I am very well, thank you very much. For those that don't know, I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2.5 years ago, which of course is always a massive shock to anybody that hears those words, you've got cancer. And I went through a mastectomy. I didn't have to have treatment like chemotherapy, but I looked at myself and I had a bit of a health epiphany, and I went, what am I doing to support my health? What's my lifestyle like? Not a blame game, because I really don't want to get into a scenario where people think that their cancer is their fault. But I genuinely believe there are things that we can do to reduce reoccurrence in my situation, and also to reduce the risk of cancers in everybody's life. 30 to 40% of cancers are preventable.
How did you know you had breast cancer?
I encourage everybody, men, women, feel yourself, know yourself, get to know your body. I have always regularly checked my breasts, and I was actually away filming in Costa Rica, and I was in the hotel bathroom and I felt a lump in my left breast, and I wasn't unduly concerned. I did go and get it checked out, and originally it came back as nothing to worry about, benign microcysts. But several mammograms and ultrasounds later, I have something called dense breasts, which we should talk about, because 30 to 40% of women have dense breasts. It makes it very difficult to spot cancer on mammograms. So if you don't know you've got dense breasts, you might walk away thinking you're all clear, and that might not be the case. So mine was missed a couple of times, and eventually I was kind of leaving my doctor's office, and he said, I'll just give you one more ultrasound before you leave to go off on your other holiday and won't see you for a year. And then he noticed this tiny dark pinprick, and he went, I don't like that. We need to get that biopsied.
Right.
That was a year and a bit after I had first discovered the lump. So I feel as if I have... I wasn't close to death with my cancer, but I feel like I've looked death in the eyes, and it's just been a massive wake-up call.
Death came a little closer.
It did.
It came and had a look at you as opposed to you looking at it.
And it made me then look at myself and go, what am I doing? How am I living?
Right. And so, as far as the book's concerned, it's great. It's been out before in hardback. You've been at Carfest talking about it. Thank you for that. You went down a storm.
Yeah, people really responded well, which is gorgeous.
And you sold out. All the books sold out, which is great. And now it's out in paperback. It's a great Christmas present, guys. Walk yourself happy.
Thank you very much.
You had me here.
Go on.
You had me at. Let me get this right, because I've circled
I
all
love
the little
that.
bits.
You've got turned down pages.
Of course I have.
Oh,
You had me at, Julia. You had me anyway. But you had me at as the former president of the Camping and Caravanning Club. I went, no way!
There you go. Yeah, so I was the president of the Camping and Caravanning Club for 10 years.
Yes.
And the reason I loved it is because I think, I mean, you do it at Carfest, everybody's camping, everybody's doing it. There's a real freedom to camping.
Yes.
But the other thing about camping is it is the best way to get you on the doorstep of the great outdoors.
Of course.
And as you know, I'm a huge proponent. The whole book is basically about the benefits of nature, why we all need to be outside every day. And camping gives you something special, whether you're a motorhomer or caravanner or whatever it is. I think as a family and with groups of people and friends, first of all, you operate differently when you're all camping together. You know, it's like, Chris, you do the barbecue, and then, somebody else does the
divvy up the tasks.
Yes, and for children, you're giving them their first bit of independence.
Yeah.
Get out there, you're in charge of this. This is your bit.
And they love it.
And they're sleeping in a tent on their own. You're next door to them.
They think they're most fun.
They think they're on their own. So they really feel like they're on their own and they've got this independence, even though you can keep a watchful ear.
Yeah.
So I love what it does for us, because we all spend too much time inside. We don't walk enough. We don't have enough daylight in our eyes. We don't get enough sort of daylight on our skin. We don't see enough nature. And human beings have evolved to be in nature. And that is what the book says again and again, with beautiful experts who talk about how the brain responds to things called fractal patterns.
Tell us about fractal patterns, because that's I love that chapter.
So fractal patterns are the ever-repeating patterns that you see in nature. So it could be the leaf of on a tree, or it could be tree bark, or it could even be open your fridge and it'd be the head of a broccoli. Yeah. And those fractal patterns, when you look back to our ancestors, we can see fractal patterns were painted in cave drawings, because there's something about them that we innately understand. And that's why being out in nature is good for depression. That's why it lifts your mood. That's why it creates something called BDNF, brain brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is like brain nourishment, and it clears your brain and helps you with thinking. You actually produce proteins when you start walking that are beneficial to your whole body. So there's a whole host of things that we are missing out on if we don't do it every day that are free. So what I like about this book, I'm on a next book now, which is about preventative medicine, and some of preventative medicine costs things. You have to do tests and this and that.
Well, this is preventative
But this is preventative. Everything is free. How can you improve your sleep? How can you walk more? Stretching. What does stretching do to the body? It's incredible.
Yeah. And the fractal pattern thing is really interesting because I've been around this a lot recently, and I think the reason it's so mesmerizing and liberating and calming and invigorating and energizing and all these different kinds of things is because it's a representation of what life's about. Because you talk about the tree, and you have the tree, and then you have the branches all going off in different places but coming from the same source. So what you have in fractal patterning is you have the uniformity of existence, but the potential chaos of existence. And that's why I think we engage with it or connect with it so much, because that's what life is. We are born with this beautiful skeleton, which is so perfectly designed and manufactured, but then what we do with it is up to us, and that's our own fractal patterning, isn't it?
Yes.
And the days are fractal patterns because they're all 24 hours ish long, and there's the moon cycle, that's fractal patterning, and that's why I think we unconsciously feel safer around it.
And there's an innate understanding of it because, of course, that's how we evolved. We didn't evolve to live in in these buildings with these lights and this air conditioning. Yeah. What a surprise!
If we get back to where we're supposed to be, we feel better.
Yeah. Weird that. It's strange. And the other thing, of course, about nature is it's ever evolving, it's ever changing, it's ever surviving.
Yeah.
But it has to adapt to what's going on around it, to the climate, to what we're putting into the atmosphere, what the damage that human beings are doing. But it survives. And what's now emerging from a scientific point of view, which is really interesting, is that plants and trees are not just things there in the ground.
Oh, no.
They are moving and growing and feeling. So when you're standing next to a tree, it knows you're there. It even knows the colour of your shirt, and then it starts pumping out these phytoncides to protect itself from you, because are you friend or foe? But those are actually beneficial to us. They help build our immune system. So part of our immune system is something called natural killer cells. And when you're out in a forest bathing for 2 or 3 hours, they've done the science on this in Japan. You boost your natural killer cells. You're boosting your immunity, and that immunity lasts for 2 or 3 weeks after you've been in that forest environment.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy and
so
beautiful.
Crazy.
And
here's the thing, everyone. If we do less of the things that we've created and more of the things that nature's created, it's better for us.
Yeah. And that goes right down to the food that we eat and the soil that the food comes from.
Tell us about biophilia.
So biophilia is a Greek word, and it's the love of life. And it's a term that was phrased by a very clever biologist called E.O. Wilson, and he wrote a book of the same name. And biophilia basically is this understanding that the natural world, exists as sort of a part of a complex ecosystem. It's a pattern, it's a jigsaw, and everything is reliant on everything else. So I'll give you an example of biophilia. Redwood trees in California are being chopped at a horrendous rate. We're losing all these great species of trees. Well, the redwoods, when the leaves fall off the redwood trees, when they settle on the ground, in simple terms, they create something called fulvic acid. And fulvic acid runs off into the coast of California, and that fulvic acid creates a more oxygenated environment in the water, which allows the phytoplankton to grow. And the phytoplankton are essential to marine life to eat off. So the larger of the marine species, the sea otters, for example, which are famous in California, they need this bit of the ecosystem to feed. And if the sea otters disappear, all the other little things disappear as well. So that's biophilia in action. This big tree, miles and miles away, has an impact on the coastal and the food, and actually has an impact on whales. So if you said to somebody in a pop quiz down on a Friday night in Marlow, what's the connection between a redwood and a whale, there'd be no idea. What is that? Well, they won't now. They'll know.
Yeah, there are no pop quizzes in Marlow on a Friday, but if Julia moves there may well be.
It's something we could work on.
Yeah, and also Haynar, right, our engineer, and Kedge, who's head of digital, right, and Owen, who you may have said of social.
All there.
Yeah, but they've got a quiz team name that they've not not been able to use, because they're all quite techie, they want to be tech that.
Oh.
So they want to be there. They want to be coming first in the meat raffle at Julia's quiz night in the even more miraculous Marlow. All the better because the Bradburys, not Cadburys, have moved to Marlow.
Well, not yet.
It's all going to happen.
It's all going to happen. Yeah, it is now.
Biophilia, amazing. And you talk. So we were up in Marlow Common, right? On Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So I was running on the trails in Chilterns on Saturday. You got all this to come.
Gorgeous.
And then on Sunday, I took all the kids up, and we had the Forest Olympics, which we have quite a lot. So it's a fun game, and we make up different games and this and the other. And then Boo she was lagging behind Eli, and it was log walking, tight ropes, and he was 6.5 to 5.5. And then I said, he's 12. He's got better balance than she has. He's got bigger stride than she has. It's not fair, Julia. So I said, right, anybody who can find anything interesting now gets an extra point. Anyway, he only went and found a skull.
No.
Yeah, he went and found a skull. A bird skull as well, a really impressive skull.
Yeah.
So it didn't work. So I was sort of foiled and I was fudged. And I said, do me a favour, Boo, just go and grab a handful of earth and bring it back to me. I'll give you a point. She said, why? I said, because that is the kind of forest drug that I want. And you talk about it in your book. You talk about the musky earth in a forest, especially at this time of year. Oh, my God.
That smell.
Oh,
Geosmin.
that's the thing.
So I'll tell you something else about that because let's talk about the health benefits of.
By the way, how much is perfume? 90 quid a bottle. This is free in your hand, and it's the sweetest smelling thing.
And sorry,
on the planet.
perfume is full of something called phthalates. Really bad for you. No, avoid that. So soil. I was at a place called Broughton Sanctuary researching my next book, and Broughton Sanctuary is in deepest Yorkshire. It's one of the only healing hotels in the UK.
A healing hotel?
A healing hotel.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to be there. I know you are. Yeah.
Street. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Room for a small one?
Maybe we could go and do a show there.
Yeah.
And I met a man there, and I think his name was Will, but he was called like Will the Acorn. Of
course he
like,
was.
Why are you called Will the Acorn? He nurtures baby oak trees and then finds the right home for them so that they can be planted in the right place all across the country.
Oh my God.
He has a history, and he was quite open about this. He has a history with alcohol addiction and drug addiction. So he was very worried about his overall health and very worried about his microbiome, because alcohol, you're talking about October, Sober October, alcohol strips the microbiome. And through all the guests that you've had, the microbiome is really important when it comes to human health.
Yeah, because what's in paint stripper?
Exactly.
Ethanol.
You want to have good bacteria and bad bacteria in your belly, and so alcohol strips it out. So he was really concerned. So he did a microbiome test, which is a stool test. I'm doing lots of those at the moment as well.
Yeah, of course you are.
And
don't fear the stool test.
Don't do it. Test. His microbiome came back off the charts, amazing.
Yeah.
And the functional medicine doctor he was talking to said, I've just really never seen such a healthy populated microbiome. Tell me about your life. He went, well, I'm outside 40 hours a week and I'm digging and my hands are in the soil all the time. And he said, I don't wash my hands when I have my sandwich and everything else. So his microbiome is impeccable because essentially he's just not eating. I'm not saying go out and eat handfuls of dirt, everybody, but we inhale these microbes through our nasal passages. They go into our lungs. They boost the immunity, not just of our
They're the life
lungs.
Coaches of our gut.
Right?
They
They are. And you want as many of the good ones as
possible. And this
possible.
is why there are fecal transplants nowadays going on, because his poop will be super healthy.
And those fecal transplants, there's an amazing doctor. I don't know if he's been on. Have you had Dr. William Lee on here?
Yeah, but we should have.
You should have. So Dr. William Lee is this incredible doctor in the States. I listened to a talk of his a couple of weeks ago. He performed a fecal transplant on somebody who he was then going to treat for cancer because their cancer was so bad they were sent home to die. There's no more treatment for you. And he needed and wanted to, this is him, he fixed their microbiome before he then treated their cancer. And by fixing their microbiome, he managed to treat them successfully for cancer.
And this is science.
This is science,
this
and
is
it's
proven
out now.
science.
And he said, this is the impossible made possible. Yeah. So, fecal transplants will have a place in cancer treatment in the future, undoubtedly.
All right, one of my favourite things that I say at any meeting that I'm invited to is pre-test principle, because I'm often invited to company meetings and things like this, and I say it's all about pre-test principle, keep the main thing, and you have 100% of your business, but you might have 20% of the customers you want to deal with, and bizarrely, those happier customers, those more positive people, give you actually 80% of your business, so sack the 80% of your customers who are a nightmare, you'd 20% of your customers become 100% of your customers, but you get 80% of your time back, if not more, and everything gets better. It's called the 80-20 rule out there in the real world.
Yep.
You have it in your book.
I do. So the 80-20 rule in my book is to do with food and nutrition. We currently eat, in the UK, 60% of the food we eat is ultra-processed and processed food. We are the highest consumers of junk food, fast food in Europe. We create more litter than any other country as well in Europe, unfortunately. So we've got ourselves into some very bad habits.
Right pickle.
Yeah, it is a pickle, and there are many places we can go to sort of place the blame. I don't want to put it onto individuals because fast food, convenience food is sold to us.
Yeah.
We're also very much sold this context that we are always out of time. We don't have enough time to cook. We don't have enough time to go to the farmer's market or go to the grocers, or we don't have enough time.
So that's the problem. Let's swim through the problem.
So the solution is to try to feed yourself the best possible food you can, because your immune system responds to every single bitter processed food and refined sugar that you consume, and it responds in this way. It creates inflammation. It basically doesn't understand this food, and your body becomes inflamed. Now, inflammation when you have a cut and you're trying to repair yourself is a really good thing. Inflammation that's constant and chronic causes us constant chronic issues and problems. One of them being type 2 diabetes, which is massively on the increase. If you get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it will cost you or the NHS £3,000 a year to feed you your drugs for the rest of your life, and you will be besieged with a whole host of those issues that go alongside it.
There are other currencies. Money, obviously, very important for a lot of people.
Yes.
But there are so many more currencies than just money. Somebody said to me over the weekend, I can't afford to do that. And I said, what? From a financial point of view, or from an every other currency in your life point of view? I said, I'm not sure it's financial, but can you bear to be away from your children? Can you bear to be away from the gym? Can you bear to be away from focusing? Can you bear to be away from your bed? He was talking about working more.
Yeah.
He said, I can't afford to not work 16 hours a day. I went, well, from a financial point of view, that might be the case, but it might be the opposite as far as all your other currencies are concerned. So it's very important to cite the £3,000 a year that's going to save the NHS and yourself potentially.
Yeah.
But the other currencies it's going to give you more of in all those different bank accounts is so important.
It's life, and it's your life health puzzle. And there's an expression that I use in the book, which is, if you don't make time for your health, you'll be forced to make time for your illness.
Yeah. I love that.
And that is so true. So 16 hours a week, if that's how much he has to work. But what about, we know, you've had Gabor Mate on here. We know that spending time with your children is the most important investment you can make in them. It's not whether they can get the next PlayStation or whether you can. And I know there's a crisis going on. I understand it. I honestly do. Making a choice. I've given up alcohol, and I spend the money that I would have spent on alcohol is now on food. So I prioritize good food. I've stopped buying clothes. I recycle my wardrobe, and I've got some fantastic companies that lend me clothes, which is beautiful, because eating well is so important to me and to my family.
You double denim at Carfest.
I did double denim. Well, we were all double denim at Carfest.
You had a great outfit on at Carfest.
It was a jumpsuit. Thank you very much.
Can we go back to Carfest? Yes. I said to you, sugar, Julia, sugar. It's no problem. I'm giving it alcohol. It's not a problem. I love it. It gets better and better every day. And it was a lot less hard than I thought it was going to be in the first place. But sure, I can't get off the sugar train, and I still can't get off the sugar train. Tell me what you know.
Okay. So in the book, I talked to Professor Tim Spector. He's a nutritionist expert, and I talked to Pauline Cox, who's a nutritionist who I work with a lot. And we talk about the sugary craving. So first of all, walking is good for sugary cravings. Walking does stem them.
I couldn't walk anymore.
No, but you can't. So with you are going to have to go through probably a 4-week period of pain. And
got to do it.
So the first thing I did, I was like you. I'm very thin naturally, and I was addicted to sugar. I stopped snacking. That was the first thing I did. So don't eat in between meals. That is a really good way to stop with the craving.
You talk a lot.
Protein. Start your day with protein.
Yeah, I don't eat till midday.
That's all good. Intermittent fasting, great for replenishing the gut and all the rest of it. So first thing that you eat, lovely leafy greens, good clean protein, put some eggs on
Here's
there.
my problem. So I'm reading your book, and I'm reading the various sort of menus you have in the book, and some great sort of headlines on what to eat. And there's very little fruit in there. You know, it's a lot of vegetables and it's a lot of peanuts. I eat loads of fruit, and they do say sugar is sugar. It's all sugar.
So go for low sugar food. So kumquats are expensive and exotic, but they're pretty low sugar, low GI. Blueberries are your friend.
I know.
And you can
I'm going to show you what I'm going to eat on the train today.
Okay, show me.
No, Karen.
And you can get powdered blueberries, and you can freeze blueberries when they're not in season.
Trail mix. Look at that dried fruit.
Dried fruit is the worst.
I know,
There's very high sugar.
Sugar bombs, isn't it?
But you are eating the fruit.
And nut selection.
You are eating the fruit with the
Sounds
nuts.
good.
The nuts will help because they're fibre and fat,
Also,
and that will help
plastic
absorb the
packaging
sugar.
on that.
I know.
It's terrible, isn't it?
It's not good.
It's terrible.
And what I would also say to you is buy, back to the cost thing, buy your nuts in bulk. I buy my nuts in bulk. I bung them in the oven, and I get my own little baggie, and I take my baggie with me to work. You could do that.
You look great. You look great. You are great. You're a wonderful human being. Julia Bradbury, morning, Chris. I missed Julia at Carfest. I was working at my store. What kind of excuse is that? But I just downloaded the book. She's an utter inspiration. You are all smashing it this morning, team. Sunita in Manchester. Julia is a magnificent lady. Please thank her for her brilliant book, says Debs. Good morning. I love Julia, and I've been watching her for years. I'm so proud of my husband, Phil, who had a health scare back in March and is now walking miles on a daily basis and has lost 6 stone. Also, shout out to my friend Tony with an I, who's accompanied me on a fourth Macmillan mighty hike thus far. Loving the show. Alison in Bath. Claire in Cirencester. Wow, what a show today. And the bouquet on top of the cake is Julia Bradbury. Fractal Patterns, Biophilia, Healing Hotels. Ooh, you speak in my language. Book ordered.
There we
Job
go.
done.
Beautiful.
We're almost out of time, Jules. You are welcome anytime.
Thank you very much. I would love to come back.
I'm so pleased about your health.
Thank you.
Are you talking anywhere soon? You should take this on tour, this book.
Yes, well, we are on tour. I mean, we sort of constantly are. And at the moment, I'm busy writing book number 2. And we are doing Walk Yourself Happy retreats. Next year, we're going to be doing Walk Yourself Happy retreats, day retreats, where people can just come and walk with me and talk with me. And we'll have nutrition advice as well at the same time. Because that's the question I get asked most about. It's like you. It's like, how do I get off the sugar? What do I eat? How do I adjust my diet?
And you're not an expert, and you say that, but you are surrounded by experts.
Yeah, and I speak to experts a lot of the time, and I'm very on it. You know, I'm not a doctor. People sometimes ask me, what cancer treatment should I have? I go, don't ask me that.
Do you know what? You've got a doctor's voice. Yeah, do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You could be a doctor or a professor or anything you darn well want to be.
I'll see you now.
They're still... You've seen me now. Next.
Next.
What do you want to do with the rest of what's left? Do you have a plan or not?
Yeah, well, I have become so invested, a bit like you. You know, you love this health and well-being world now.
Yes.
And I really...
We gave it a go, though, didn't we? On the other side of the tracks.
We did, which is great. I would never regret that side of my life.
I love all your tales about, you know, when you finish filming stints on Country File and 14 days sometimes back-to-back filming, and you're all in the pub and you're eating all the wrong things. Yeah. And, you know, again, you know, no lectures, no pack drill, no judgment. You know, if it's still working, it's like that betting advert, isn't it? You know, when the fun stops, stop. If it's still fun, it means it's probably all right. But you do sense it's beginning to stop. When the fun starts to wane a little bit. And the issues start to come in.
I would say I've just done my last series on Channel 5 was behind the scenes in the Royal Navy warships, and working with that crew who are absolutely lovely. I'm always the oldest one now because I'm the old bird. I've been here for 25 years.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 54.
Okay, so I'm still the oldest person on this floor.
Are you?
And there's a lot of people on this floor.
How old are you now?
58.
Are you?
Nearly 59.
Looking great.
Thank you.
The whole crew.
Cap.
It is the cap. Well, I don't know if that makes you look younger or older.
Well, I'm with you. I think it makes you look older, but
you look more sheep farmer. That's for sure.
I'm not sure about that. Anyway, how about that?
The whole crew, younger than me, but so much processed sugar and stuff.
It's all right.
No,
isn't it?
there's some of them who that I needed to have a little word with and said, "You're not looking really healthy, darling.
Good for you to do that.
You might want to think now about cancers are the statistic, and I'm really bad with numbers. That's what I don't hold well. It's something that I'm working on. I'm getting better. But over the last 3 decades, cancer rates have shot up.
No, you are right. It's just that I can't do that because of my past, and also I'm not qualified. So, but you can do it because you're a genius.
Because I've had cancer.
You're a genius. Yeah. All right. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Walk yourself happy. Find your path to health and healing in nature. Inspires to embrace the life-affirming joy of walking, says Russell Foster about this book. It's hard not to be persuaded by Bradbury's positive and enthusiasm outlook, says the Times. Vasa, sorry, you've not got looking again. I apologise.
That's quite all right. I very much liked hearing about, especially that wellness hotel. I've already looked it up. Looks so
My
nice.
next one, I'm off to another one in the Himalayas next.
Because
To
they
do
do
a
say,
spiritual
don't they?
reset.
You know, you can be done for drink driving
Ananda.
because you're under the influence, but you can be under the influence of good stuff as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's what all this cold water swimming's about. It's basically just being under the influence of all the endorphins.
Fascinating fact about drinking, lack of sleep and
Go
alcohol
on.
by Professor Russell Foster in the book. Are you better getting off in a car at 4 a.m. with somebody who's had too much to drink or somebody who hasn't slept?
Well, ideally neither.
Yeah.
But it'd be the person who's drinking.
You'd be better off with the person who's drinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's you know, the worst of two very, very
It is the
awful
worst of
evils.
two, yes.
But I know what you're saying.
Do you know, it's the lack of sleep.
I think the better example of that, if you don't mind me saying,
Go.
is the 27th of October this year. So that's when we lose an hour's sleep.
Yeah.
So in the world, we know that where you put the clocks back, more people die the following day of heart attacks, of road accidents, of accidents generally, because they've just, that 1 hour's less sleep makes such a difference. And when we put the hour on and we gain that extra hour, fewer people die. God knows why we still do it.
I say in the we need to stop
Well,
that.
you
Maybe
know
we
about
could
farming
campaign to stop
community,
that.
don't you?
I say in the book there's something called the dawn phenomenon. Between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. you're most likely to have a heart attack because that's when your body starts to surge basically and get ready for the day ahead. That's why the clock change is such a bad thing for humans.
Right. Don't surge. Feel the urge to merge with a better tribe for better health, better well-being, better life.
Well, 'cause I'm
longer
happy.
life. It's not about the years in your life. It's about the life in your years, first and foremost.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Julia.
Vassos.
Virgin Radio.